Hello, Philippines, and welcome to the World News Jam right here on DZRJ and RJ TV. My name is Lecain, and with me again, Miss Lolly Tolentino.
Hello, Eric.
Hello, Lolly Tolentino. You having a good week, Lolly?
Oh yeah, a pretty busy week.
We
as
made it to
usual.
Sunday.
What about you? Tell me.
Well, let me tell you, Lolly. This week I was in Singapore. Doing some stuff there. I was at the crypto convention there. At the same time was the F1 race,
Oh.
which a lot of people go to, including the president of the Philippines was there. You know who else was in Singapore this week, Lolly? As many weeks in Singapore, Filipinos. You know, when I was in I went all around Singapore when I was there. There are Filipinos everywhere in Singapore.
Of course, Singapore is like a second home of some Filipinos. Some of them they work, some of them are just traveling, enjoying, eating the Hainanese chicken. Did you?
They have a lot of that. Yeah. There's not that many McDonald's, not that many Kenny Rogers there, but there's a lot of that chicken, whatever that stuff is. But yeah, every restaurant, every store we went into, I think there was Filipinos in every single place that we were in there. Sometimes I think there's more Filipinos in Singapore than there are Singaporeans. I'd like to find out what the actual number is there, because it was really something. But the big thing that was going on in Singapore this week was the F1. And I didn't actually see the F1 race, but we saw the practice runs because it's amazing. They shut down the whole road in the middle of Singapore. But I got to tell you, Lolly, they had a problem with the race this time because of lizards running out on the racetrack.
Really?
They have these
lizards?
monitor lizards in Singapore, these really big lizards.
Oh, wow.
And for some reason, those lizards are not bothered by the sound or racing cars, and they just would run across the street right in the middle of the cars racing. So for a while, the cars are weaving around them, but then they decided, this might be a problem later. So they were trying to find out which official could go out there and pick them up. But one of the lizards, there was a couple of videos of some lizards. One of the lizards did not survive and was squashed by one of the high-speeding cars, which is not far from, there's a law in Singapore that if you are jaywalking and somebody hits you, they don't get in trouble. So whoever hit the lizard there is not in trouble. So, but yeah, if you're crossing the street in Singapore, be careful, because if a car hits you, well, if you're dead, it doesn't matter. But if you're not, they don't get in trouble because you're jaywalking.
Oh, okay. But Lisa has no problem.
Yeah, but nobody gets caned. That's why we were so worried, because we'd be standing there getting ready to cross the street and wait for the light. No, don't cross the street. Wait for the light. You don't want to get caned. I don't think they do that, by the way. They don't do that. Not for that. Not for that. Maybe for something else. But speaking of other things that you might get caned for. Let's just start out here. Here on the show, Lolly, as you know, we talk about interesting stories, or stories that I find interesting that are going on around the world, and hopefully you will too. We try to educate the Philippines as to what's going on outside the country. And one of the big things going on, of course, is U.S. politics, which we kind of, for some reason, get to every week. And it seems that the President of the United States might be under impeachment.
Well, they did that to President Trump. They will do it again.
Tit for tat,
Yes.
as they say. So the Republicans are trying to impeach Joe Biden, good old Joe Biden. As you remember, the Democrats, of course, impeached Donald Trump twice. Once for holding back the funds from the Ukraine until they gave him dirt on Joe Biden, and also for the January 6th events where he tried to overturn an election and some people got killed and some police got beat up pretty bad. So in both those cases, though, when Donald Trump got impeached, there were mountains of evidence, phone recordings, all kinds of stuff to prove the cases. The problem that the Republicans have with this particular case is there's not a lot of evidence yet. In fact, I would say there's little. In fact, I would almost go to say that there's no evidence yet to warrant an impeachment inquiry. But they're pushing for it anyway. And the issue centers around Joe Biden's son, who's on the board of a company there in the Ukraine, and they have been investigating that company for years trying to tie President Biden into his son's dealings, saying that the President Biden was profiting from his son's dealings while he was vice president. But with all the investigations, all they could show was that Joe Biden's son was trying to create the illusion of being able to have access to his father. However, so far, no actual contact between this company and Joe Biden, no actual proof. Even the hosts on Fox News, they get the Republicans on there like, do you have any actual proof? Anything we can actually? No.
There's none. But Eric, remember, this is politics.
Yes, this is politics.
When it comes to politics, everything is possible according to their opinion, according to their whatever. So, they need to throw something to Joe Biden because, you know how it is.
I mean, they say they had an FBI document in which the informant claimed that he knew of a deal made to pay off the Bidens $5 million each, one for the son, one for the father. And they came on television and they kept saying, we got this document. The problem is, you can have a lot of documents. You got to be able to prove them.
Yes.
You have to be able to show some kind of proof. And the head of the Ukraine states that nobody at that company ever had any contact with Joe Biden, no involvement. He had no involvement helping that company at all. The Republicans state that they can show $20 million going to the Bidens. However,
again,
zero proof, zero proof that any of it went to Joe Biden, that he was taking money from any sources.
Poor guy.
They're working it. They're really trying hard. They're saying that, well, Joe Biden was trying to get rid of that prosecutor now I've talked about this on the show quite a bit, this prosecutor in the Ukraine that was going after the company in which Joe Biden's son was on the board of directors. So therefore, there was some funny business going on. However, the problem that they have with that is this prosecutor was a really bad guy, and the EU was going after him, and the Monetary Fund Foundation was going after him. Everybody was trying to get rid of this guy. So, so far, his son, I feel bad. His son has been in a lot of trouble, and he just pled guilty to tax evasion and having a gun without declaring that he had a drug problem before, which is a felony. Okay, so he pleaded guilty for that. But so far, they have, finding wrongdoing by the son is not grounds for impeachment.
Of course.
You got to find something that the president's done.
Yes.
So
remember, always, I will say this over and over again, Eric, because there is politics here. And then, it's kind of election time again. They need to get some attention. Biden should look bad and all that. So that's why it's coming.
I mean, Trump was actually impeached twice. So as long as they do an inquiry, they don't have to impeach Biden. They'll never win. There's too many. They can't. There's only 5 votes. They would have to get. All the Democrats would have to do is get 5 Republicans to vote to not, and they will. I mean, there's no reason. But, if there's so much, obviously, against this, why are the Republicans doing this? And I have a feeling I know why.
Why?
If you remember, Lolly, a while ago, we were talking on the show when that guy, Speaker McCarthy, he was trying to get the speakership of the House. He couldn't get it. They had 15 votes. They wouldn't elect him Speaker of the House. So he made a deal, a secret deal. That deal was, part of that deal was, hey, we got to figure out how to impeach Joe Biden, even whether we have proof or not. So I don't think he really wants to do this, but I think he has to do this in order to keep his speakership, because one of our favorite guys, this Gates fella.
Oh, Matt Gates.
Matt Gates. He came out and threatened him. He threatened him. He said, listen, if you don't do this impeachment thing, you're out. We're going to vote you out.
Well,
so there's threats going on.
Yeah.
So
easy for them to,
I think
that's why, McCarthy is like, he was pressured by, his own people, his party. So he has to do something. Yeah, okay, I'm going to follow whatever you say.
Yeah, I think he's just going to do it just to get him off his back.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? There's nothing. If we can convict or impeach Biden, well and good. If not, so what?
I think there is. I think there's going to be an inquiry for impeachment, but I don't think they're even going to get to the point where they actually have an impeachment trial. They'll do the inquiry, but I think that's it. I don't think it's going to go any farther because they just don't have anything yet. If they could find something, anything at all, but they just don't have it yet. So I think right now, Joe Biden is sitting pretty for now.
Yeah.
So, and he doesn't say a word. He hasn't said a single word about it.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side of things, there's one guy that won't shut up.
I think I know who that guy
And
is.
that would be Sir Donald Trump, the ex-president. This week, Donald Trump will not keep his mouth closed. And so some people are out there trying to close it for him, including the prosecutor of the current indictment. His lawyers are trying so much to keep him quiet. They're trying everything they can do to keep Trump quiet. But the problem is they're also trying to keep themselves from getting fired. And they're also trying to keep themselves to getting paid because he doesn't pay his lawyers very much. But, Trump just continues to keep talking and incriminating himself like all week. And it never seemed to be a big problem until now. This week was a big problem because the prosecutor is like, all right, there are multiple indictments against Trump. And so they asked the judge, listen, can you shut him up?
Yeah.
Because this case is progressing, and the more information comes out, the more Trump is trying to go after every single person in this thing, trying to discredit everybody, anybody that pops up on the radar. And the problem is that Trump will casually allude to the fact that we should stop them, that they are not prosecuting me, they are prosecuting you. So you need to stop them before it's too late. So many of the Trump followers are looking at these statements as a call to violence.
Yeah.
If you remember, Lolly, some of the previous shows we had, many Trump followers, they made a plot to kill the governor of Michigan, I think. The leader of the Democratic Congress, they entered her house and hit her elderly husband over the head with a hammer, almost beat him to death.
Yeah.
And then the January 6th, the mob stormed the Capitol, people got killed. And, the president kind of is instigating a lot of this stuff with the stuff that he says. So, this, what was it, 3 weeks ago, where the names of the people in the grand jury that indicted him came out. Somebody from the Trump group published those things. So now those people now have to look over their shoulder. That woman that was one of the people counting the votes, and people came to her house and threatened to kill her. I mean,
Yeah.
So the prosecutors are telling the judge, you need to shut him up before somebody dies.
Yeah.
And he's saying bad stuff about the judge.
Yeah.
Giving out the judge's name, giving out addresses and phone numbers and family members. And, Trump is like, well, I have free speech.
Yeah,
Well,
yes, you do, but the thing is,
Do you?
you are putting the life of people in danger by doing that. So that's why they issued that gag order. Imagine he called him, this guy is deranged. And they're like, oh my God, without a body and eyelash, he just say whatever he wants to say. Anything. It doesn't matter. Okay, Eric, let me ask you this. Do you want another term for the president like that? I mean, there's so many people talking about it.
I'm not going to answer that question on the grounds that it may incriminate me.
I know. But, but the thing is really, I mean, the good thing that I like about Biden is just keeping his mouth shut. If there's an issue, he will just be quiet.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
Biden's
what-
pretty much staying out of the whole thing. He hasn't said a single word about any of these indictments
Yeah.
or anything. He's just pretty much
Yeah.
staying out of the whole thing. But I remember, when Trump came out with that statement, if you come after me, I'm coming after you.
Yeah.
Most people are like, it's just Trump talking. But there are going to be some people out there who are going to think, you know what, I need to help him.
Yeah.
I need to go find this prosecutor, and I need to take care of him. And this is why all the people that work on the Georgia case, now they all have to have bodyguards.
Yeah. They need
So-
to protect themselves because of, whatever they say. Because, remember those people, how many people got indicted? I mean, the Proud Boys.
19?
That,
Oh, no, that, okay, I see what you mean, yeah.
Those are the example of people who might, believe him and do other, stupid things. to
Yeah.
other people. I mean, to the judges, to the grand jury. You know, my God, they need to be very, very careful because, you know, life is at stake here. And this, you know,
Well, he
case.
keeps saying, you know, one of the issues I think that the judge had was he keeps saying things that are about the case that are clearly not true. I mean, there's certain things that he says, well, you know, I can't wait to get into this trial and testify. I'm going to get in there and testify, and I'm going to be, once they hear me speak, everybody knows that Trump will not testify. I mean, we know. And so they want to stop him from saying stuff like that because he's, you know, he's dirtying up the pool of the jurors. And so I think that's one of the things they want to say. And, you know, people think, well, what's going to make it, because before they told him he couldn't say anything, and, you know, literally a few hours later, he said something. He went right on thing and said a bunch of things. So they were talking about fines, you know, would they fine him? But they've already tried to fine him before. I mean, the E.G. Carroll case, I mean, he was found liable for $5 million. And like literally an hour after he was fined $5 million for saying, you know, defamatory statements against her, he came out and said the same thing again. And then they sued him again for what he said literally an hour later. So I don't think the fines are really working. I think they're going to have to threaten him with some jail.
It's not really, you know, because he will always say the same thing over and over again, you know. I think nobody can stop him. I don't know what would make him stop.
I don't know either. I think, you know, it's going to be so interesting on how this whole thing plays out. That there have been the 19 that are indicted there in Georgia. We've spoken about quite a bit here on the show. 2 of them are now, they have the right to have their case heard as soon as possible. And the prosecutor wanted everybody to have their cases heard in October so we could all get this over with. But of course, Trump is not, you know, they're not going to do that. He's going to drag it out as long as he can, which I understand. That's what he does. But we'll get to see the guy 𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀.
Okay, now, Eric, always remember Trump is consistent on what he's doing. Very consistent.
Very consistent. First, he's going to threaten everybody, and then he's going to drag it out as far as he can.
Oh, yeah.
But there's one person that really knows a lot about Trump, or he seems to, and that is Mitt Romney. Now, you've been seeing his name in the news a lot this week. He is a senator from the state of Utah, I believe, correct? Very religious guy, very Republican, very conservative guy.
Yeah, conservative.
One time was the Republican nominee for the president of the United States. He was what they called the Republicans' Republican. One of those hardcore, conservative, right-wing religious guys, old-school Republicans, believed in the Constitution, believed in religion, following the law, you know, put the criminals away behind bars. You know, one of these guys, basically, now, he's the opposite of every Republican. You know, what am I going to say? So anyway, this week, Mitt Romney said he's going to quit. He's given up. Part of it, he's old, but he says he's not part of the party anymore. They're not the same. So he said he's not going to seek re-election in 2024. So he said that Republicans no longer believe in the Constitution and only seem to care about getting reelected. They no longer push for policies. They are all about revenge and lies, and that is their only policy.
Wow. And, you know, I kind of like him when he said that. A lot
of people did.
I mean, principled person, I mean, will do the same thing. I mean, even if I am that guy, I will do the same thing probably. If I'm not happy with my party anymore, I'm gonna leave. I mean, I will be forever Republican deep in my heart and all that, but then, you know, I don't want to be part of you guys because it's a different, you know, a different party already.
What I think Mitt Romney's doing, he's saying what many Republicans want to say, but they're too scared. They're so scared of the Trump base or what he's going to say about them. And he's going to get his people to vote them out of office, which he has done to every Republican who's turned against him. He has gone out of his way to try and get them voted out of office. You know, anybody that has was positive for his impeachment. Anybody that spoke out about the January 6th stuff. You know, all these senators, the Republican senators, came out and criticized the January 6th, and then immediately was like, oh, wow, he's not going to go away. And so now they're all like, oh, yeah, we're Trump guys again. Yeah, we have no spine. We can barely stand up. But, I mean, this is kind of what a lot of them, they're just so scared to death. So this week, Mitt Romney released, there was a biography released about him, and some of the things that were said in that book goes along with this thing. You know, he seems to be one of these, like I said, he's one of these guys that doesn't seem to care about what the Trump base thinks anymore. And he named a lot of guys, all these fellow Republican senators who privately hate Trump. However, they're too scared to admit it in public, and many of his colleagues showed solidarity with him, but wouldn't dare let it be known because
they're scared.
We know what happens when you speak out against Donald Trump. He will tweet about you, and never before has a tweet been so dangerous as when he started. So he recalled this interesting, you know, there's a lot of stories in this thing he tells, and one of them was, that came out in the news this week, was this weekly Senate lunch they used to have. And they allowed Trump to come into one of the Republican senator lunches and give a speech. And during the speech, they were all nodding their heads, and they gave him a standing ovation. However, once he left the room, they all burst out laughing.
The hypocrisy.
You know,
I mean,
it's incredible. Mitt Romney said they all believe, they all say privately just how stupid he is. Now, here again, we're not picking sides, you know, on this show. But I'm just saying this is what the news is this week. I'm not saying that, you know, we don't know how, if Donald Trump is stupid or not, but his Republican counterparts seem to believe that he is. You know, Romney, he's a devout Christian. We know this from watching him. He was the presidential nominee against Barack Obama before. He says, and he said in the book, that Republicans are supposed to be devout Christians. But once Donald Trump hit the scene, all of this is out the window. He says, you know, where are the Christians? Where are the good people? Where are the people that like have true family values? It's all gone now. And he talked about forming a political party with that Democrat Joe Manchin, who talked about the Democrats don't even like him. He's a Democrat, and they were going to have a slogan, and the slogan was going to be "Stop the Stupid."
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah, not stop the steal, stop the stupid. But anyway, I guess the big story this week was that Mitt Romney had gotten some information from the Pentagon that they can see. The Pentagon has all kinds of ways of seeing stuff, and they could see that something was coming up on January 6th. They could see all this chatter, like, wait a minute, they're going to come, you know, do some really bad stuff. They're going to try and sneak guns into the Capitol. They're going to attack people. They're going to try and kill people. They're going to burn down houses of senators. They had all these plans. And so they called up Mitt Romney and they said, hey, you know what? Be careful because your name is coming up here. And so was Mitch McConnell's. And Mitch McConnell, they said, you know, that they were going to burn down Mitch McConnell's house. And so he called up, or he sent a text, and he said to Mitch McConnell, in case you have not heard this, I got a call from Angus King, the guy from the thing. He said, spoke to me about with a senior official at the Pentagon who reports that they are seeing disturbing social media traffic regarding the protest plan for January 6th. There are calls to burn down your home, Mitch, to smuggle in guns into D.C. and storm the Capitol. I hope that significant security plans are in place, but I'm concerned that the instigator, the president, is the one who commands the reinforcements in D.C. and the Capitol Police, the things that might require, that they're so worried that if this thing happens, that Donald Trump is the one in charge of the police. And he's going to tell the police to not do anything, which is exactly what happened.
Yep.
And so this came out, that Mitch McConnell knew ahead of time that this was going to happen.
Yeah, he was informed, and then what did he do? I understand
he did nothing.
Yeah, he did nothing. He did not
even
reply.
Text him back.
Yeah, so he knows what's going to happen. So, because he's very scared, you know.
You know,
Scared of
it is
Trump.
the fact that that happened before and that we are on the verge of it happening again. That the United States, you know, used to be, you know, the light on the top of the mountaintop, and now, I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be one of the scariest places
That's
on
why,
earth.
You know,
I don't, you know,
you know, let me make a little comment on that. Some of my friends in the U.S. are scared if Trump will go back to power. They're really scared because what he did, what they saw before the election is really alarming. So, in fact, some of the nurses, they said, my God, after this election, I'm going to go back to the Philippines.
Philippines, where it's safe.
Yeah, it's safer than, you know, here.
It should be their the new slogan. Philippines is safer than the U.S.
That's why, you know, when President Biden won, they said they were happy, oh, we're going to stay. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to stay.
So they stayed.
Easy going guy.
Yeah.
But speaking of places that are unsafe, you know, let's move over to our climate news because this week has been a crazy week for climate news. 10 countries in how many territories? 10 countries and territories in the last 12 days have had massive flooding due to, according to what they say, climate change issues. Hong Kong, Greece, Taiwan, Brazil, Nevada, Massachusetts, and Libya.
Wow.
Now, I don't remember ever hearing about floods in Libya before. We hear about other issues in Libya. But there was, I mean, absolutely devastating floods in Libya. There in the coastal city, 𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀. They believe 11,300 people are dead.
Yes.
Because of this flood.
I can imagine how, I mean, a lot of people, even here in the Philippines, we get flooded and everything. We never get to that, you know, point of having that much, I mean,
that's a lot. That's a lot. And that's not it. There's 10,100 people missing.
Oh, yeah.
That they have not been able to find yet. So this number is not going to be stuck at 11,300. They said extreme rainfall that hit Libya was brought on by this system called Storm Daniel. And the city was literally split in two by this massive flood that came right through the middle.
Oh my God.
There was no warning. And the problem they have in Libya, according to, you know, I watched the videos and it's very poor infrastructure, these old buildings. People go to hide in their house, but the house turned out to be the worst place to hide.
Yeah,
because once the water hit the house just disintegrated. And so now that the floodwaters are starting to recede, they have other problems that they're dealing with now. Cholera, malnutrition, diarrhea, dehydration, all these issues that are coming up. You know, and all these children are all displaced all over the place. And now there's problems of violence, exploitation, and something you don't hear about a lot in floods. And this is something that kind of shocked me, landmines. You know, there's a lot of landmines around Libya, and when the floodwaters came, those mines just kind of floated away. And some of the munitions and those landmines, they washed up in areas, and they're exploding. So that's a problem that you don't hear about every day. So, you know, very scary.
Yeah, it is.
What's going on there?
Scary. When I saw it, and when I was watching the news, I told myself, my God, we're just lucky that we are here and we don't have that kind of. But you never know. I mean, you know,
floods
this is
in my neighborhood every time it just a couple drops of rain comes down, but nothing like this.
Yeah.
Nothing that the amount of devastation I saw this week in the videos in Libya was just mind-boggling.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Those are just flood. Look what happened to the buildings. My goodness, it's just like it's like an earthquake with flood on it. I mean, big time.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, this is happening all over the world. Hurricane Idalia, that was in Florida, left thousands of homes damaged, you know, walls, roofs. And the problem is, right now in Florida, there's like waist level water, these murky, you know, floodwaters that came through Florida. Which one thing you have to worry about in Florida is there's alligators. Alligators in the water.
Alligator, huh?
You know, there's so many things that they say now in Florida. Like if you're in your home and all of a sudden you hear a strange noise, get out of your house, because these floodwaters move in an instant, and houses are falling. They're falling down with people in the houses. And they're worried, this is what they're worried about in Florida right now, people getting electrocuted.
Wow.
Because the waters are so high and it's not receding. And they say, don't turn off the main power in your house, just don't touch it. Because when you go to flip it off and on,
you might just
electrocute everybody in the house.
God.
So that's a big issue. And then in New Jersey this week, 3 people died from riptides.
Oh.
Because of these crazy weather patterns, riptides are shooting through New Jersey. People are being carried out to sea. They're able to save most of them, but 3 people did not survive. In fact, the lifeguards have such a hard time maneuvering through the water that they had to make a chain from the shore to see if they could rescue someone. So one holds the hand of another, who holds the hand of another, until they get far enough out where they can get the guy, because they're scared that they're going to get caught up in these things. And all of this, they keep saying that a lot of this has to do with the changing climate.
Yeah. This is the real climate change. Climate is changing every day in every different places all over the world.
They had a man in New Jersey who went down into the water on Sunday, and they didn't find him until Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
So these things that are going on, these riptides, which are very dangerous because you can't see them. The water looks fine on top, but underneath, it'll suck you right down. So
my God.
a lot of this thing that's coming, it's called by El Nino. All these things are called these bizarre riptides. But speaking of things that are a problem for the world right now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un,
favorite leader.
He's on vacation this week, so I thought we would talk about him just a little bit. You know where he's on vacation? Russia.
Of course.
Why would anybody want to go to Russia on vacation during a war? But he got to go. Kim Jong-un got to go on a tour where none of us would get to go, and that is he got to sit in a Russian warplane and see how all that stuff works and what he can do. He met the Russian defense minister and discussed the cooperation between these 2 massive armies, and after checking out the warplanes, they whisked Kim over to the warships and let him check out the ships there at Central Command and its modern missile weaponry. Which I'm sure is not something I think you should show Kim Jong-un. But anyway, he was there. He was able to sign the guest book, and he made a comment, and they gave him a replica of the ship. So
maybe he ordered.
So he has a toy ship that he can go home with. And this all followed, of course, his meeting last week with Russian President Putin, in which Kim seemed to endorse Putin's war with Ukraine. Surprise, surprise. On North Korean TV, Kim said that he was deeply impressed by all the cool military equipment he got to see when he was in Russia.
Okay. Well, why not? He's just impressed. So what's the meaning of that?
I would be too. But he left a message in the book.
What is
that? So he made a comment in the book, and of course they reprinted this. Witnessing the rapid development of Russia's aviation technology and its gigantic potential. So that's what he wrote.
Potential.
So, and anyway, we know last week Kim Jong-un, of course, his big news last week was that tactical nuclear attack submarine that the North Koreans put in the water, and they did the test, which is a new chapter for its Navy. Supposedly they can send nuclear missiles from anywhere in the world. And of course, the name of that submarine, in case you didn't see the show last week, Hero Kim Kung OK.
Nice.
That is the. But you know what came out this week, Lolly? There's a lot of skepticism about that submarine. South Korea says it's a fraud.
Which one is the fraud?
That the submarine, it doesn't work.
Oh.
They're saying it's not capable of doing all these things. In fact, they say it's not even capable of normal operation. That North Korea has greatly exaggerated the capabilities of this submarine, and the U.S. came out and said, you know what, we don't think it works either. So,
okay, so
maybe they have a submarine, maybe they don't.
Yeah, but maybe just trying to show off, that hey, we have this, maybe we can make use of this one. Maybe for now it's just like a toy, but
So, Hero
capable.
𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀 maybe doesn't work, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah, we don't know.
But anyway, there's one other story I really want to talk about really quick. Alexander Lecain, who we talk about all the time on the show, he's the president over there in Belarus. He expressed an interest of having a trilateral partnership with Russia and North Korea. Man, that's something that's scary.
Okay.
First thing, that Belarusian leader, he would do anything right now, because if he loses Putin, they're going to put a bullet in the back of his head so fast. But anyway, he made an interesting remark. He makes these remarks all the time, but I just thought that was very interesting that he said, I think we might be able to do a three-way cooperation. Now, so anyway, that is something that the president of Belarus wants to do, a three-way, it seems, with the president of Putin and Kim Jong-un.
Okay. Good luck to them.
Good luck for him. Hopefully a video will come out of that soon. Now, moving on here, China is a atheist state.
Oh, it's just a Buddhist.
And we said, I always thought, I've never been really sure about that, what the religion was in China. But supposedly, and I knew this before, that the government does not endorse any religion there. Your religion is your alliance to China.
Okay.
Which, is a little weird, especially since the Pope went to Mongolia this week. So the Pope was there in Mongolia, of course, being right between Russia and China, which is, the geopolitical reverberations, because China's on one side and they won't condemn the Ukrainian war. And here we have the Pope there, and the Pope has publicly condemned that war. It was interesting this week that, the things, what is the Pope going to do coming to Mongolia, which is what? There's 1,500 Catholics in the whole country of Mongolia.
Very small.
During the Mass, the Pope conveyed a message to the people of China saying, be good citizens and be good Christians. Now, there's not a lot of Christians in China, and the actual words that he said was, to the entire people, I wish the best, go forward, always progress, and to the Chinese Catholics, I ask you to be good Christians and good citizens. So, interesting words. In Mongolia right now, there are 1,500 Catholics in the whole country, which is up from 1995, where there were only 14 Catholics in the whole country.
So it did not progress. It did not,
So they've had a little progress, but since the country of Mongolia has transformed from a communist society to a democracy, people are now able to freely have their own religion. Whereas in China, right now in China, they think there are 6 million Catholics, but they're not really sure, because even though it's legal to practice Catholicism there, the government watches everyone to make sure they watch all religions very carefully to make sure they know who is Catholic and what they're saying, because you cannot go out and have a Catholic parade, or you cannot show your sermons on television, or you cannot post them and stuff like that. So they have certain rules about that, about religion there.
Well, that's good enough. At least they don't kill the Catholic. I mean, in some countries they do. You need to hide if you're having your service or church, you have to do it underground. Even in some part of the Middle East, it's not allowed. But the good thing, when Pope visit any country, I don't think he does. He doesn't. He just go out and say, it's like showing love and peace and whatever to people, and which is a good thing. Which is like all the countries. Some countries are fighting, having a war. So he's out there for peace. So why not bringing all these people, together to have peace, relaying his message, a godly
It's true.
word,
Even though he's in the country of Mongolia, which only has 1,500 Catholics, the world is listening.
Of course.
Anytime the Pope says something, especially if the Pope makes a direct statement to China, which we know because he's right there. The fact that he's in Mongolia, which is right in between Russia and China, and that the Pope has spoken out quite adamantly about the fact that he is against this war and that he thinks that Russia should stop what they're doing. And the fact that China has not endorsed the war, but they have not, they've kind of been sort of going along with it. And the fact that he's telling the people of China, be good citizens. I think there's a lot of words that the Pope is trying to sneak in to his the sermon that he's giving there in Mongolia, to a direct message to the people of China.
Yeah, I think that's good enough. I mean, he cannot, because he's out there to make friends with everybody, is giving. So who else would tell Russia to stop the war?
I know.
Russia?
I mean, there's not. Russia knows. I mean, that there's that. Russia has a lot of Catholics, and I think I think with the fact that the Pope speaks. And the Pope speaks in a place like Mongolia, I think that's going to... Now, whether he's able to be heard by China or not, hopefully he will. But the fact that he's giving a message to the people of China... And like I said, there are 6 million people in China who are Catholics that we know of. They believe that there is a whole lot more that practice Catholicism in secret because they don't want the government to know. I think it was very interesting what the Pope is trying to do, because you would think, why would the Pope go to Mongolia? And I think there was a reason why he went there.
There is a reason. Of course, there's a reason.
Trying to, like everybody's trying to do, stop this war.
Yeah, I mean, who's benefiting this one? Only the president.
Yeah, I mean,
For
right
his
now
own
nobody
ego.
is benefiting anything from this war, because it's a war that has no end.
No.
The war's already done. We already know. Neither side can win. They've already said that. Neither side can win this war. So it's just going to go on indefinitely until somebody finally gives in. And it's not going to be the Ukrainians.
No, they're not. The president will even visit, I think, this week, Washington to meet the president. Yeah, because he's also asking for more help, because who else will help them?
Yeah.
Of course, they're an ally.
I mean, the United States is not, first thing, the United States is not going to let them lose the war.
Yeah.
And the fact that the jet planes are going to start flying very soon. They said, we talked about it here on the show months and months ago, that very soon there are going to be jet planes. There are going to be F-1 fighters or F-16 fighters flying around, patrolling the skies of the Ukraine, which they have never had before. And this is something, of course, that Russia has said, we can't believe that the United States is getting themselves involved by giving the Ukrainians jet planes. Well, actually, the United States is not giving them the jet planes. They're giving them the training for the jet pilots. The Europe is actually giving them the planes, but the Ukraine will have jets, and that is going to really upend the balance of power in that war, and that's coming. In fact, I would suspect that by October we're going to be talking about that here on the World News Jam. The jet planes that are now in the Ukraine. So anyway, I just wanted to get that story in because I thought it was very important. And I wanted to get over, before the show ends, I wanted to get over to Bangladesh. We've spoken about Bangladesh quite a few times on the, we love Bangladesh because they're able to give the Philippines 30 peso t-shirts that you can get down in Baclaran. Those come from Bangladesh. But besides the cheap t-shirts that they have, right now they also have the worst outbreak of dengue. And every time there's an outbreak of dengue, I report on it here because I think it's very important, especially in the country that we live in, where dengue is an issue here.
Yeah.
And the Philippines has been doing pretty okay keeping it at bay. But since April in Bangladesh, 650 people have died and 135,000 have come down with the disease. And why is this happening in Bangladesh, of all places? According to the WHO, the World Health Organization, climate is to blame for this, because the monsoon season started much earlier this year. We talked about this on the show like months ago, that this was going to happen. The monsoon season started much earlier than it was supposed to, and so the mosquitoes' offspring are being born quicker than they should be. And there's more of them than there should be. And this has put a huge strain on the hospitals there. And supposedly 64 districts across Bangladesh have all been affected by these mosquitoes. However, of course, the capital has been hit the hardest. Right now, as the capital, as the number of dengue cases is starting to decline in the provinces, it's blowing up and getting increasingly worse and worse. And some parts of Bangladesh are some of the most densely populated places on the planet. There are more people packed into one area than anywhere else on the planet. And much like in the Philippines, people take showers with buckets and scoops. And so you have buckets of water everywhere at everybody's house. They go out, they get water, they bring the water back, and they fill their buckets up. And so this is a problem. And the heavy rains that the new climate crisis has brought with the extreme heat, and it's just getting better and better for the mosquitoes.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's one thing. Here also in the Philippines, we should really be very careful, because I saw some people at the hospital before. When they have a dengue, the blood came from from the nose. I said,
dengue is a bad man. It's a hardcore disease.
Wow.
And if you don't, we can cure dengue, but you got to get to the hospital in time.
Yes, if not, you're gonna die.
It's pretty bad, and it's supposedly getting much worse. In 2000, in Bangladesh, they had about 500,000 cases, but now in 2022, they recorded 4.2 million cases of dengue, and this is not including what just happened. The massive amount of deaths that they had over the last couple of months there in Bangladesh. And scientists are predicting that number is going to continue to rise. If you remember, Lolly, I think it was, I don't remember how many, it was month before last, we talked about Peru. We brought Peru up, and the fact that the dengue cases in Peru were exploding there. It was the worst in history because of the rainfall. And the rain had nowhere to go, and it was so much of it that it was puddling, and they never had this problem before in Peru, and they didn't know how to deal with it.
That's the thing. At least here, I just want to share this. Like in our building, we have a schedule of fumigation, because during the rainy season, we expect the mosquito to to party all over. So we need to do something about it, and because I don't know. Do you know that in the morning? I don't know which the male or female mosquito bite you, and then one of them give you, you might get dengue. I don't know. I think the male. I'm not even sure about that. So that's why we need to be careful. When you see that, we just, normally, I always run after the mosquito. I have this flyer, the thing, and I will just run after the mosquito and kill the mosquito. I mean, don't let the mosquito propagate. I mean, you just need to be careful of the mosquito.
Standing water. What's interesting, because mosquitoes, they're attracted to sweat, and we smell good. That's the thing. When we sweat, that's one of the things. But what's fascinating is, and we talked about this here, when a mosquito, the amount of what goes into a mosquito stinging you, it's incredible. Like so many things that have to happen all at the same time. They have 5 different things that have to go. One of them, in fact, you don't even feel it until it's already over. Until they pull out, that's when you actually feel the mosquito bite. But the big issue that they're having, especially now in Bangladesh, is there is so much water that they don't know what to do with. It's just there. There's nowhere for it to go. And this is a big problem that they're having now. They believe that the amount of dengue cases is going to, because right now it's just exploding in the province, and there is no way to. The reason that so many people are dying in Bangladesh is there's just no way to get them to the correct medical care that they need, which is the same issue that they had before in the Philippines. Now the Philippines has come up with a lot of solutions on how to deal with dengue, especially with, of course, working with the educational system here, and they've learned to curtail a lot of these problems. But in Bangladesh, I mean, this is kind of a new issue that they're having. They've never had problems this bad before.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one of the things. Now, switching gears here, there's one more story I wanted to get to, because we always like to talk about social issues on this show, and there was an issue that was coming out of China which crossed my desk this week, and I wanted to talk about a little bit, and it's an issue that's happening on the train system there. China has an interesting way of dealing with social issues. And right now, this week, they are under a little bit of fire, because they put out a video asking women to please not put on their makeup on the train.
Why is that?
Because the video shows a situation if a woman is causing problems by putting on her makeup. She is on the train putting on her makeup, and then it shows the guy sitting next to her, and all of a sudden it shows him, and he has a face full of foundation. And so she looks at him and she goes, he says, something like, "Well, I don't need makeup on my face." And she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." And this is all in Chinese. And then she helps him clean off his face. So they are saying, that they, this falls under, they have one for litter and one for people taking other people's seats, and they have one for talking too loudly, and now they have one for women. Don't put your makeup on the train. And so there's been a lot of outrage.
Oh my God! I mean, even the makeup thing. We do that here. Even, I see it in some even public transport. They do it. Some women, they were just putting their makeup. They're because they're rushing. They need to, they don't have time to put makeup at home.
Powder on, and it goes.
Yeah, that's a different thing. But isn't it funny? I mean,
so I know that it seems like a silly thing, but it's interesting how China goes about this. That this is one of the things that they have found, that they need to get the public to pay attention to, of all the things that they have in China, the people that spit, the people that belch too much, I would say the crazy things that they do in the bathroom, but this is the thing that now that's causing the issue, because they came out with this video that they wish that women would not, they want women to refrain from putting the makeup on while in the train.
Okay.
And so a lot of people are like,
I'll check when I go to China if they will follow that. Women, if I see some women putting makeup on the while in the train, I'll tell them, isn't this part of your
because the foundations for somehow in some way is floating over and onto men's faces, according to the video on the Chinese video.
Maybe those are just it just happen. It doesn't happen all the time, maybe, but I don't know why they make it a big issue.
I mean, for me, I think it'd be hard to put makeup on while the train is bouncing around. I don't know, you're trying to put your eyeliner on.
Yeah, well, maybe the powder is easier, but not the, for, let's say, eyeliner, because it's dangerous. Well, would you like to sit with a woman putting makeup, Eric?
It's dangerous, according to 𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀, putting your makeup on a train. So I believe that our stories have gone to a whole new lower level now than when we started. So maybe I think it might be time that we are out of time here on the show. But just so everybody knows, putting makeup on the train in China is not seen as offensive. So next time you're in China. But while we are not in China, we're on the Philippines, which seems to be okay if you put makeup on the train here. But of course now in the train here in the Philippines, you're scrunched in together, so I don't know how you would put the makeup on here. But in any case, we are out of time, 𝗡𝗲𝘄𝘀, but we will be back again next week with more stories, interesting stories from around the world, here on the World News Jam on DZRJ and RJTV. So for now, Thank you so much for joining us here on your Sunday evening. We'll be back again next week. Please see us then, and everybody take care out there, and we will see you next week.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests